And then Blair Fleming comes along and spikes it, and just over and over again, they call it a kill.
Yeah.
Kills it over and over again. That's the whole game. So 3 or 4.
I mean, to be fair, it's also called a kill if a girl is doing it, if a biological girl is doing it. But still, yes.
If I were coaching girls volleyball, or if I had a daughter, I'd say, no, we're not playing Blair Fleming. Welcome to Silverman Law Firm's Weekly Docket, episode 60. Today is March 6th, 2025, and I'm Phil Silverman, owner of the firm and your host. I'm joined by Austin Black, my co-host. What's on our docket today, Mr. Black?
Yeah, so for today in our legal news section, Texas may be making it a felony to identify as being transgender. I'm sure we all have different thoughts over that sort of identity. I do think it might be a little bit too far to identify it as a felony. We'll talk about it. And then we're moving on to Texas, again, tackling a very hot button issue, attempting to ban THC, right? We already have marijuana banned, like smoking weed in Texas, even though legal in some other states, federally still illegal. So technically it's illegal everywhere. We talked a little bit about this before, but THC specifically is not banned in Texas, and lawmakers are considering banning that as well. So we'll talk about the implications there, how that might play out legally, and then we'll move on to our legal questions section. First, discussing what the difference between a notary acknowledgement is and a jurat in Texas. Now, you may not even know what a jurat is, and you may not know what a notary is, but for those that do, or those that want to know, we'll explain to you the difference between the two and what situations they're used, and then when to use a small estate affidavit in Texas. Some people think that a small estate affidavit has the same legal effect as if a probate was done for someone if they pass away. It doesn't exactly. It's different. We'll let you know in what situations you may want to use it, and also go through the potential risks and benefits of it. Then finally, our rant and rave section. We will be talking about the border, very hot button issue at the moment. Border apprehensions, they've dropped at the moment to 80%, and we'll be discussing what has changed in that realm and how we think things are going to move and going forward. So that is our show for today.
That last rant and rave piece, that's really a mini rant and rave. I was just shocked by that level of drop, why I put it as a rant and rave. It's just like, to me, it was jaw dropping. Let's go ahead and get it kicked off with our legal news section. And we're talking about making it a felony to identify as transgender. Full disclosure, I don't think it's Bill 23. And we know that the lower the bill number, or the lower the Senate bill number, the House bill number, the Senate bill number, the higher priority it is. So maybe this one has a shot. I don't know that this has a shot. I think for your initial comments on it, Austin, when you were doing the roll call or the docket call of what we're doing today, and just sort of that's a bit much to make it a felony. This is one of those things that I think could be really hard to enforce from a penal code standpoint, but from a policy standpoint, the state of Texas is all about this.
Because it gets into, first off, I think that federally, right, there's been some executive order to where you're not supposed to be able to identify as something other than male or female on your government documents. And I'm sure Texas doesn't allow that either. And if we're just talking about identification, what is this? Is this going to be policing thought at this point, or what? I don't know. It'd be really hard.
It's like when my wife dyes her hair blonde, right? She says, "Oh, she's a blonde," but she's not really a blonde. So we don't want.
She's not a biological blonde.
We don't want to make. I don't want her going to jail. I mean,
that'd be bad.
Yes, I'm a relatively conservative guy. I'm really mad about this Peyton McNabb stuff. So I just learned about this. I did not listen to Trump's address, but if this is all true, Peyton McNabb, she was at Trump's address. She is a UNC, University of North Carolina volleyball player. She was playing D1 volleyball. She was spiked in the head. They were playing San Jose State, and she was spiked in the head by this person named Blair Fleming. who's transgender, biologically a man, and Blair Fleming, whatever we're calling Blair, I was watching video footage of it. It was intense. It looked like a man playing volleyball against a bunch of little girls.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's offensive. I don't know how else to say this, Austin, but if you were to let a man play basketball or football or volleyball against females, the men are just bigger, stronger, faster, and it's not fair. Yeah, I guess I'm a raging lunatic for having that opinion. So
No, even you probably didn't see this, but just about 2 hours before our shooting today, Gavin Newsom came out and said that transgender men or transgender women playing in women's sports is unfair, fundamentally unfair.
Okay, so if Gavin Newsom now believes that, then I'm not sure how this is even still.
He is breaking. I will say he is breaking with the establishment Democrats, though. That's not their party line. I'm not surprised because we all know he's running, and that's a really easy. It's a really easy issue, and I think things like that were part of the reason why the Democrats were not able to beat someone who I think has been established as a felon now, and possibly a rapist from what we've seen. I don't know. If you can't win that, then maybe you're having an issue identifying reality, and
Well,
I don't know.
So you're telling me Gavin Newsom is attempting to make himself more generally electable
Yes.
to the United States.
Yes, I
okay,
do
and that's
think
why
he is. Yeah.
that's why he's taking that position.
Yep.
We don't want men playing girls' sports. Okay.
Yeah.
We
And some sports it doesn't matter, like chess. I don't care. Chess, I don't care. Foosball, I don't care. Table tennis, even maybe we don't care. I don't know, but yeah.
I don't know how you would enforce it. I'm not sure if this is just a sports thing. I'm not sure if it's also just really an identification thing where you go to the airport and you say you're a man, but if you're on a website or you apply for a driver's license and you list that you're female, but you're biologically male, if that would be a violation of the proposed state law. I don't know. This gets into, I think, a real difficult situation to enforce this kind of thing.
Agreed.
But the whole Peyton McNabb thing, disgusting what happened to that girl.
Yes.
It was vicious spike. And she allegedly had a brain. This wasn't just like, a brain bleed. They're alleging brain bleed, right? Her brain actually bled. And that's a pretty serious injury.
Yeah.
So let's try to keep this Blair Fleming and these other people from playing.
And yes, and granted, it is a small amount, right? Like that's something everyone always likes to bring up on the left about this issue. Like it's so small. There's only like 10 of them identifying like that in the NCAA, right? I'm sure there are more in other divisions, etc. But there's only 10 of them. Okay, one is too much, right? One is too much.
Well, if you dress LeBron James up as a woman and he decides he wants to identify as a woman and he wants to go play on a WNBA team, right? That team is going to win the championship just with LeBron James dressed in a skirt, or I guess they don't wear skirts when they play basketball, but pretending to be a woman.
I think LeBron James would, though. He seems like that kind of guy to me.
So it just takes one. And if you've got this, I've seen the San Jose State footage of Blair Fleming playing volleyball against these other schools, and 3 or 4 of the other schools just forfeited the games.
Yeah.
And it looks ridiculous. All you need is the real girl, okay, to set the volleyball up for him. And then Blair Fleming comes along and spikes it, and just over and over again, they call it a kill.
Yeah.
Kills it over and over again. That's the whole game. So 3 or 4.
I mean, to be fair, it's also called a kill if a girl is doing it, if a biological girl is doing it. But still, yes.
If I were coaching girls volleyball, or if I had a daughter, I'd say, no, we're not playing Blair Fleming. Okay. Look, we got to move on to more legal news.
Okay, let's transition. Okay. Texas prioritizes the THC ban. Okay. So this is another thing that the legislatures are attempting to do, right?
Yeah.
Cracking down on hemp products.
We've talked about this
Little
before.
bit,
So
yeah.
THC, let's just give the listeners a background. THC is legal. Okay. It's okay. But you have to buy something that is less than 0.3%.
Yes.
So these drinks, whatever you have, these gummies, it needs to be less than 0.3%. And that's all completely legal. It's causing lots of problems. The legislatures, the Republicans have said that the content is actually more. Now Texas is trying to walk this back, and they want to ban it all, except for medical use, the compassionate use stuff, where if you have cancer or if you have these other diseases, you can use THC. But we want to ban it. And Austin, I don't know if you've noticed, or if it's like Houston where you live. I live in Houston, wherever you live in the DFW area. Are there these CBD shops just on every corner in DFW?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty much. Like I tend to ignore them nowadays, but yeah, pretty much.
If I don't know when all these, if this gets banned and all of these CBD shops go out of business, I don't know what centers are going to have in their centers anymore, because there must be. It's like Starbucks. You need a CBD shop on every corner in your retail center. So, but yeah, the Republic
back TCVY. Okay, I love that stuff, man. Bring back the frozen yogurt. It's great. And I never see them around anymore. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, the 90s are gone forever. So no more frozen yogurt or ice cream. And I guess you still need a dry cleaners. I guess now it's the dentist, the vape shop. Is it one and the same, or the vape shops different than the THC places?
Oh, I thought you were asking if the vape shops were different than the dentist office. I was like, I hope so.
I don't know what kind of dentist you've been going to, but if you go see a dentist in Southwest Houston, you're going to get the vape, the THC, massage.
Wonderful. Okay. Good to hear.
All right. They say the public opinion is split. If you like THC, I can see why it's split. But
I mean, honestly, I don't really care. Like, I don't partake, but I don't think it's any worse than alcohol is for people. I feel like if we're going to start getting into these sorts of things, just ban alcohol too. Because no one in the world, like, who has a shred of like scientific literacy thinks that alcohol is good for you. And if we're going to start policing things like this, where I've never heard of anyone going on a THC or marijuana-induced rager.
Texas may ban it. And that's where we are. And
which would start lawsuits, quite a bit of lawsuits, because
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You don't think it would?
No,
the industry is valued in millions of dollars.
I think the legislature squarely has the power to make it legal or illegal, and any lawsuits, that I don't think there's any constitutional right to sell.
I agree. I don't think the lawsuits would be successful, but I am saying I think they'd probably still try them, at least to forestall the ban for a certain amount of time.
We'll see. But I don't know. I think it'd be. I don't know if this is going to pass. It's a high priority for Texas Republicans. I don't know, but my feeling on this is I think it has a good shot. So we'll see how that comes out, and we'll keep everybody posted. All right, that brings us to our legal questions section.
Okay.
And this is this difference between, we're talking about notaries. We're talking about the difference between an acknowledgement and a jurat in Texas. And there's a lot of confusion here, both with lawyers, both with notaries, both with the general public. Austin, when you're doing a deed or when you draft a deed, that is an acknowledgement, okay? And an acknowledgement,
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and in an acknowledgement, all the notary is doing is witnessing the person signing the document and saying, yeah, this is Austin Black, for example. You're going to, or Bill Smith. He's the one here in front of me. He has his ID. He's become known to me.
Yeah.
As the notary, I'm saying this is the person signing it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean what Bill Smith is signing is necessarily true.
Absolutely. It doesn't say that, but it does mean that if later you find out that the person who was purported to be signing it in the presence of a notary was not actually that person, that notary might be on the hook for something, because either there was a fake ID or they just didn't check anything. So
you can certainly have some fraud issues there.
Yeah.
You'll typically see with an acknowledgement, you'll just say that Bill Smith or whoever's signing the document personally appeared on this day.
Yeah.
All right. And then you've got a jurat. A jurat is something different. That's where you're actually swearing that something is, and you're swearing under oath. And you typically see those in affidavits or depositions or other type of sworn statements.
Yes.
And the language there is typically sworn to and subscribed before me on this day. So there's a difference between just, hey, I appear, I sign it, there's an acknowledgement, and then I'm actually swearing to something. That's the difference. You need to know when to use one, when to use the other, if you're a notary out there, or if you're an attorney, or if you're a general public doing your own legal work. That's how you do that. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next question. We're talking about when to use small estate affidavits in Texas. Have you done these before? Have you done these small estate affidavits, Austin?
I have. Yes, I have.
We used to never do them. They're not that old. I think they've been around. I lose sight of time. I've practiced for a while now, but it doesn't seem like it's been around for longer than about 5 years. But when they first came into existence, we almost never used them because the banks really did not like them or accept them. I think they're more widely accepted now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. So,
what are the requirements to be able to use one, Austin?
yeah, you need there to be no will,
Okay.
or you can have a will that does the exact same thing as the laws of intestacy would do, but that's a side issue. No will, you have no need for a formal probate. And then all of the people who would be heirs at law, so the people who would receive according to if there was an intestate probate done, would need to sign the affidavit.
Yeah. And the threshold of all of this, even getting to use one, is that the estate has to be valued at $75,000 or less in Texas, and that excludes the homestead.
Yes.
So most people that die, if you're really talking about a small estate, most people die, they just have their house. So let's exclude that. And if everything else that they have is less than 75 grand, then go ahead and use the small estate affidavit. And maybe you've got something simple where you just need to get a bank account cleared or something else. The small estate affidavit would in theory be a good fit. I think the banks are in fact accepting these a little bit more frequently. Doing a probate in Texas is pretty cheap. I guess it saves you a little bit of money to do a small estate affidavit. I'm not a big fan of these. You can do an entire administration, an independent administration where all the heirs are cooperative for not a ton of money. Maybe you save a little bit of money doing a small estate. And if something comes up later, then you might end up having to go do a full administration anyway.
Yeah, because, and all that a small estate affidavit does, right, when it's recorded in the property records, is it creates a rebuttable presumption that the disposition of the estate is as that form says it is, right? And so if anyone comes forward and questions anything on that, then it's really not going to have any bearing. It's just rebuttable. If they rebut that presumption, then you're probably going to be involved in court anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. And use it if you want. It can be a good tool. The downside is if you end up later needing a full administration, then you've got to come back and do it all again. And then it's even more complex because we'll have to do a bill of review and get the order that the judge signed on the smallest state affidavit vacated, and then go forward with a full administration. So
Yes.
not a big fan, but it's out there as all right. That brings us to my favorite part of the show. This is our rant and rave section.
Okay.
And this is smallish, just a real quick kind of passing rant and rave.
Okay.
I didn't know this. I hate to sound like an extremist conservative type of guy, but I really am starting to believe that the media is predominantly controlled by more liberal thinking people. So you don't see this news all the time. And I heard Trump say this, and I did verify this, that these border crossing numbers are shocking to me.
Yeah.
And in the month of February, we only had 8,300 apprehensions, 8,300 illegal crossings. People who were crossing illegal were apprehended, 8,300. And then in the month of December, when the Biden administration was in control, we had 47,300 illegal crossings.
Wow.
That's basically an 80% decline.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering to myself, what was the Biden administration doing? You could be real cynical about it, and you could say they wanted the border to be porous. They wanted all of the illegals to come over, and that was just their policy. But if that was the case, they were extremely out of touch with how Americans feel about illegal immigration. I think even most conservative, most moderate Americans, and I would even say many Americans who consider themselves a bit more progressive want people to want people to immigrate to the United States legally, not illegally, right?
I agree. I think that the opinion held by the majority of Americans is, yes, we want people who are just coming here to move here to cross legally, and then obviously exceptions for people seeking asylum, right? Who really need to get away from a terrible situation in their country, and maybe which most of those that we get come from Central or South America, And if they're really fleeing political or like gang violence or something like that, then great. Like please come. Totally understandable. There's a process for that too. But aside from that, if you're not coming legally, then you're just jumping the line to get in front of other people who have been waiting for years very frequently. This is just not right.
Yeah. That number was shocking to me. I think my rant and rave on this is, why are we not hearing more about that number? And why is that not a very good thing? Why do we all not agree that that's a very good thing? But
I think that sounds like the rant and rave is more about the media's selection of exactly what they report on. I was talking with my girlfriend the other day about the tariffs, right, on Canada and Mexico, and how not a singular major news outlet I've seen has reported on the tariffs that Canada has had on certain sections of U.S. industry for ages.
that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
That's another good rant and rave on this. And everything's okay. No tariffs, anti-tariff. We want free market. Tariffs are war. And I'm sitting back here just as a regular guy thinking to myself, well, hold on. If Europe has tariffs against us and Canada has tariffs against us and we have 0% against them, how is that fair?
Yeah, like specifically on the two areas where we have the most, or where Canada has the most on U.S. products, are the lumber industry and the dairy industry. Both heavily protected. Canada is like very protectionist of its own industries in that area. And like I'm not someone who thinks, I don't think tariffs are bad all the time. And I do think that relationships with the two countries that are closest to us are also important. So I think that should be factored into consideration too. But I just think it's crazy that I haven't seen a single news organization reporting on any of that. And there's
maybe that's the real rant and rave. We're not getting real news, fake news out there, fake news people. So anyway, that brings our show to a close. I've been your host, Phil Silberman. Austin Black has been my co-host. As a reminder, nothing in the show is to be considered legal advice. If you have a legal question, email us at info@silblawfirm.com. That's info at silblawfirm.com. Let us know you'd like it publicly answered in the podcast. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcast. See you next time, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Thanks, guys.